About the first confirmed case of the novel coronavirus
is now being treated for coronavirus at New York Presbyterian Hospitals.
Front lines, a dire shortage of protective.
Governor Cuomo warns that New York is just days away from what he...
Once again, our city was put through another test. New York City, the city that never sleeps, slept and dimmed its lights. But through the mist of chaos and uncertainty, New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell, along with other hospitals all over New York, kept their lights on to serve its people and their community in need. Florence Nightingale once said, "How very little can be done under the spirit of fear." Our NYP nurses certainly didn't let their fear get in the way and continue to rise up together and be warriors of this battle.
Obviously got home and showered. That's pretty much the routine after a COVID day.
One of my biggest fears was, the team not trusting.
There is a fear of what's going to happen.
I've had good days, I've had bad days. I've had days that I was physically exhausted. I've had days that I was emotionally exhausted.
Even though we're trying to, all go through it together, it's when you're coming in, sometimes we're not sure what's new, what's to be expected. So that's been where we're going to go. So that's been a bit of a challenge.
Kind of just join hands, and I think teamwork was the number one thing that I've experienced in this COVID outbreak, and it kind of made it easier to come to work every day.
I mean, I think one of the hardest things has been being uprooted from my unit. And
so it's a work in progress, but we are embracing having this new change for us.
It's pretty intense. It is kind of like how people are describing it, like a war zone.
It's very tough to do when you really don't see any end in sight.
If you save a life, you're a hero. If you save 100 lives, you're a nurse.
Adapting to the new normal and making the most of your career. So how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected healthcare professionals, especially you and me, us nurses? And we have truly been impacted in ways we could have never imagined. Biohazard, workplace safety has come into our daily conversations, if not minute-to-minute conversations. This affected our families. I can remember, some of the nurses in our video, they have not seen some of their family members or even their own children for such a long time at the peak of the crisis because of fear of infecting them. And many other ways, and even our own teams at the hospitals, our work, we have been affected in so many ways. We have been reassigned to new units, nurses being cross-trained really, really quickly. We have been building ICUs like almost what feels like overnight and what we would typically do in a year or two. And much more. So what is our new normal? And you will agree with me on these things. We have been in the virtual platform, virtual meetings, virtual classes, the same as what we're doing right now. We have virtual conferences. And again, PPE. You can't start your day now without thinking of personal protective equipment, whether in your personal life or starting your day at work. starting a day scrubbing counter surfaces and those high contact points. And we can't even gather in person anymore. So again, affected in so many ways. Also, our new normal are this. I feel like we have more time somehow because we don't have anywhere to go. We can't travel. Vacations have been limited to our immediate, community or some place nearby, or we've just been very creative with that. But we've also opened the world to us in the same way as we're learning beyond borders, connecting to everyone beyond borders, having access to some things we don't typically see in our normal environment. And you see here innovation. I can't imagine how nurses are still able to be so ingenuous and innovative in these challenging times. But you can hear nurses developing patient education resources or ways to communicate via an iPad, educating new moms virtually, like just pure innovation. And everyone has found a way to make our new normal become opportunities, become gateways to something better. And that's one of my key messages for you today. Yes, we have these challenges beyond we could have ever imagined, but we also have this power and ability to transform this into something positive, right? And we have seen a lot of that in the recent months and really this year in year 2020. And I'm reminded of this quote from a poem that I have encountered earlier in my career: winner versus loser. The winner sees a green near every sand trap. And this line reminds me so much of what and who nurses have been in this pandemic. And some of these nurses I'll share with you today, some of our nurses here at our hospital, New York Presbyterian. The first photo here is a photo that was taken by Addie Egan, who is one of our staff nurses in the emergency room. She is a photographer and she was featured in this beautiful article and spotlight on nurses called Faces of the Front Lines. Because what did Addie do? As soon as she had an opportunity to take photos of nurses, of course with permission, around the hospital during their breaks, and during her break she took beautiful snapshots of them, and this just became that bright light during the peak of the crisis. And how about Sam Martinez here, this beautiful painting where his natural artistic abilities just came out during the lockdown period. And this was now picked, this beautiful artwork was picked to be featured in the 2021 calendar of the Greater New York Hospital Association cover. Amazing, right? And I'm sure you know a nurse or you've seen other colleagues. I know of other colleagues who started blogs, started journals at first, but then became this published articles and transformed their creative work into something positive in our new normal. So now we move on to, okay, we are in our new normal, and how can I still continue to make the most of my career and think on how to become the best nurse I could be? So I'm going to review with you or go over with you some steps, some intentional tactics, as I call them, as you start to create your professional roadmap. But the first step of all of that is I would invite you to pause and think about your why. Find your why. search your true north. You can imagine a compass, right? Beep, 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 until like it beeps, and that's like exactly where you have imagined and envisioned yourself to be. It reminds me of Dr. Stephen Covey's quote: people are working harder than ever, but because they lack clarity and vision, they aren't getting very far. They, in essence, are pushing a rope with all of their might. So that's the why behind why we have to find our why. And Bill George, who is a Harvard University business professor, had advised that to help us find our why, we need to go through these 30 questions to reflect on how we can move forward. And I'm just putting out a few of them here for today. And for example, like one of those 30 questions says, what do you love most about your current job? So think about them. And what could you do more of? So make a list here. What do you love about your job? And what do you think you could do more of? Or what are the things probably that you don't like too much about your job? So make that list, reflect on that list, and make that as a point of reflection on how then you can get to the next step in your career. At the same time, reflect on what are the things that peers or colleagues come to you so frequently about, and you end up teaching them more about. Those reveal your talents and your strengths, which we are heading to in the next slide. So let's move on to these steps in creating your professional roadmap, and that is self-assessment. And I'll introduce to you this acronym, or you probably have heard about this before: SWOT, SWOT. S for strengths, W for weaknesses, O for opportunities, and T for threats. And if you have heard about this before, you probably have heard it being applied in strategic planning sessions for your institution or your hospital. But you can totally apply this for yourself as you are creating that vision and doing your self assessment. So S for strengths. So reflect on what are you naturally good at. How do you love to interact with people? Are you good with interacting with people? Do you love to speak? Do you love to precept or orient new hires? What are that? What are those? And put them on your strengths list, including your talents and those skills that you feel peers and colleagues keep coming back to you and you end up teaching them. So those are your strengths. And you can probably look back the last 2 or 3 years and see what training programs or conferences have you consistently been into, because in that way you have harnessed and developed your strengths. Next is weaknesses for W. What are your negative habits and traits? Sometimes these are painful to think about, but I want you to pause and reflect on them. And experts say that if you feel that you keep asking somebody to do something for you, or you keep asking questions about something, that probably could go in this weakness list. Or how about reflecting on how you are in meetings? Are you quiet? Are you contributing? Or are you talking too much? How about things and projects that are being asked of you? How are you fulfilling them? Or you find yourself constantly late or catching up almost with the timeline? So think about that and invest time to reflect on them. How about opportunities? Is there new technology in your industry? Well, look at us now. Who would have known that we will be doing conferences in the virtual platform? Think about this last year. You probably would have not imagined us. I'm here in New York right now, and I am so happy I could connect with you. Wow, what an opportunity. And also a great example that I can think about is telehealth. How has that opportunity opened to us healthcare workers and to our patients? Are there new regulations that have evolved that could possibly impact your practice or your current field? So think about those. And lastly, for threats, what is that biggest external danger to your goal? Could there be competition for jobs that you are best suited? So include all of this in your self reflection and self assessment. And you're probably asking me now, so Rhoda, I've done all of that. What's the next thing to do? Maybe you can think about, you can go for your advanced degree, go back to school, attend a conference, implement a project, publish an article. Yeah, there must be some magic bullet somewhere that you can teach us. I hope I could do that, but we need. It's not that always. It's not always that easy. So I'm going to share with you some pointers, and the first step would be look at your CV. Think again. When was the last time you pulled that CV or updated it? So today, I would give you a homework, examine your CV, and look at all those categories. Your progressive professional experience, what certifications have you done? Have you presented? Have you done community outreach? And examine each section and see, I've been in conferences, trainings, but I have not really found an opportunity to share this, right? And, present. So make a list of what you have so much of and what are those gaps. Identify the gaps, like what I put here, do a gap analysis. And then from there, you can go to the next step, which is develop your SMART goals. So here, when you think about the acronym SMART, right? Nurses, this is our expertise. S for specific, M for measurable, A, attainable, R for relevant, and T, very important, time bound. Hold yourself accountable, put a time frame, and make it happen. And when I say SMART goals, these are just some of them, pretty straightforward, simple, time bound. I will pursue my master's degree in the next 2 to 3 years. I will write and publish an article in the next 6 months. I will mentor at least 2 nursing colleagues in the next 12 months. I will get involved with my professional organization in the next year. Whatever it is, put that down and put it in writing and put down the tactics on how you can make that happen. So next is I'm just sharing with you. I will reflect with you on an experience I had. So when I said that look at your strengths and reflect on them, I went back to think about my own journey. So before my nursing leadership roles, my clinical background has been really focused on gastroenterology and liver and hepatology. So I worked a lot with hepatitis C patients, and in doing that, I found a gap in my practice that there needs to be more autonomy for nurses in treating patients, and developed a nurse-driven pathway in hepatitis C. So I went on, and that's how I called my project, and this eventually evolved to be my doctoral project when I went for my Doctor of Nursing practice. It's Project Peach, and it's pathway and education towards adherence and completion in hepatitis C management. So when I completed the project, I found ways to share that with my professional organization and went to conferences to present it, and eventually went out to publish it. That's just really a quick, in a nutshell, how you can reflect on your expertise and your strengths and get to those other things that you have not ventured on in your career. So I invite you to do that today. In other ways, and these are, again, we're We're talking about the tactics, and these are some ways by which you can do this. So you can read this. I put here structural empowerment, which is one of the domains of the magnet recognition program, focused on professional development. Collaborate with interprofessional colleagues from other disciplines, be involved in a professional organization, mentor others or find a mentor, and be involved in the community. But I would like to highlight something here, the one in yellow, involvement in a professional organization. I have had the opportunity to speak with many nursing professionals across many settings and levels of their career. And this was what really amazed me. When you ask them, what is that one key advice that you will give for nurses to succeed in their career? It is be involved. Be involved in a professional organization, be involved in initiatives in your hospital or university or community. And there you will find ways to enrich yourself and be the best nurse that you can be. And don't forget about the power of the 4 P's of dissemination. I love this, right? What are the 4 P's? Podium, presentation, poster, presentation, publication. And don't forget that 4th opportunity that opened right now, podcast. Think about the pandemic and our new normal. There's a lot of things that we can talk about in a podcast. And as I get to the closing of my session today, I would like to share you some quotes. And one of them, of course, our founder of modern nursing, our mother for nurses, which is a quote from Florence Nightingale. I attribute my success to this. I never gave or took any excuse. And another one from Dr. Patricia Davidson, who is the Dean of the Johns Hopkins School of Nursing. And she said, I have been a nurse for over 40 years and have never for a moment regretted this career choice and have seized opportunities. Beautiful and powerful. And I'll share you one of the things, when we say adapting to the new normal and trying to chronicle this whole experience. During Nurses Week this year, our hospital, we came up with a traveling journal. So you see this red journal here. It is pages and pages of memories where nurses, it was like a living scrapbook. Each hospital unit had it started. Right now, it's still ongoing. You can rewrite your thoughts, you can write poems, reflections, you can do arts and crafts, you can put photographs, anything to memorialize this extraordinary year that we have. And I would like to share with you this beautiful word cloud that came out from our leadership training for our staff nurses, particularly our unit council chairs and shared governance chairs and committees. And at the end of the training, so the retreat theme is Year of the Resilient Nurse. And at the end of the training and retreat, they were asked to put one word and send that into this poll. And these are the words when they were asked to respond, what will we be in our future? And this is what you and I will be in our future. We will be proud, we will be braver, we will be hopeful, prepared, empowered, strong, and all these beautiful things. And that's one of the key messages that I will leave with you today as we, again, adapt in our new normal and continue to make the most of our nursing career. And one last quote, and I love this whenever I share this topic, is Abe Lincoln's quote that big things come to those who wait, but only what's left from those who wrestled. Thank you, everyone, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.